Now to the breaking news in the Middle East. After more than a year of fighting and many months of negotiations, a possible end to the war in Gaza is in sight.
Today, U.S. officials announced that Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire deal. Here's what we know right now. That deal will unfold in 3 phases. Starting Sunday, the first stage ends the hostilities for 42 days. Hamas has agreed to release 33 Israeli hostages in exchange for 110 Palestinian prisoners held in Israel. Israel would also pull back to Gaza's perimeters and allow humanitarian aid to flow in. Details for a second and third phase will be worked out during the next 6 weeks. The ceasefire still needs approval from the Israeli government.
For a reaction here in Chicago, we want to bring in Sabrina Franza. Sabrina, you've talked to both Jewish and Palestinian organizations, and it sounds like overall the reaction is positive.
The reaction is positive, but it is a conflicting feeling for both of these groups here. There's a sense of cautious optimism and concern that this ceasefire deal will last, that both Palestinians and Jews can really begin to heal.
There was celebration in the streets of Gaza, reaction to the news of a ceasefire deal that could finally mean an end to the fighting and bloodshed in the region. In Chicago, members of the Jewish community wait to see which of the remaining hostages will be released Sunday.
It's been 467 days, and our community has been grieving with our brothers and sisters in Israel since they were taken hostage.
Relief for the president of the Jewish United Fund of Metropolitan Chicago.
A sense of optimism, a sense of hope that many are still alive and they can come back to their families.
Though he says there is no guarantee any of those hostages, some of whom are Americans, will return alive.
I don't think anyone, even the highest of intelligence, really knows exactly what the count is in terms of who has perished and who has not. We are hoping and praying that the high preponderance of people are still alive.
In Chicago, members of the U.S. Palestinian Community Network, or USPCN, rally for continued awareness of the destruction in Gaza, happy for their loved ones who can finally return home.
Overwhelmed and joyous for the people of Gaza because I see them celebrating. At the same time, 69% of Gaza's infrastructure is demolished and destroyed by the Israeli military.
Nasreen Hassan is an organizer with USPCN, thinking about the vast effort it will take to rebuild Gaza and its population.
We have many Palestinian orphans who don't have parents to return to. We have many Palestinian parents that lost their children that will return to homes, if they have homes, not returning to their little ones.
She and others are pushing for humanitarian aid to start flowing sooner than Sunday.
We have many children that have lost their lives to malnutrition. This is not like a natural disaster. This is a man-made disaster. So it needs to happen now with no restrictions.
Now, according to a draft obtained by CBS News, on Sunday, the first day of this deal, Hamas would release 3 hostages. On the 7th day, 4, and then 3 additional hostages every 7 days, starting with the living and then returning the bodies of those who have died. That, of course, in exchange for the release of Palestinian detainees. Joe, Erica.
Some are still wondering if it will hold, though, right?
It is. As you mentioned earlier, it's still awaiting approval by the Israeli government, so we'll have to wait and see. And, of course, people here are kind of holding their breath to see if that'll happen.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Well, about 75 members of the U.S. Palestinian Community Network gathered on Harlem Avenue to mark the announcement. They rallied after today's ceasefire to bring attention to the destruction in Gaza.